5-valve test on an ASSE 1013 RPBP. First, flush the test cocks. Step number 1, install test adapters if applicable. Step number 2, open test cock number 4, let it trickle. Step number 3, open test cock number 1 and close. Step number 4, open test cock number 2 and close. Step number 5, open test cock number 3 and close. Step number 6, close test cock number 4. Now attach the test kit. Step number 1, close the high, low, and bypass valves and high and low bleed valves on the test kit. Attach the high hose. Step number 2 is attach the high hose to test cock number 2. Step number 3, attach the low hose to test cock number 3. Step number 4, open test cock number 2. Step number 5, open the high bleed valve, bleed the air, and then close. Step number 6, open test cock number 3. Step number 7, open the low bleed valve, bleed the air, and close. Step number 8, attach the bypass hose to test cock number 4. Step number 9, open the high valve. Step number 10, open the bypass valve. Step number 11, loosen the bypass hose at test cock number 4, bleed the air, and then tighten.
Okay.
Step number 12, slowly open the low bleed valve to cause differential gauge reading to rise, and then close. Next, test number 1, the tightness of the number 2 shutoff valve. Step number 1, close the number 2 shutoff valve. Step number 2, open test cock number 4. Step number 3, close test cock number 2. Step number 4, read the differential gauge. If the differential gauge reading remains steady, record number 2 shutoff valve as tight. Next is test number 2, the number 2 check with the back pressure test. If the differential gauge reading remains steady in test number 1, record the number 2 check valve as tight. Next is test number 3, the number 1 check differential. Step number 1, close the bypass valve. Step number 2, open test cock number 2. Step number 3, open the low bleed valve to cause reading to increase. And step number 4, close the low bleed valve. Record the gauge value. Record the pressure differential across the number 1 check valve. If the differential gauge reading is 5 psid or above, record the number 1 check valve as tight. Next is test number 4, the relief valve opening. Step number 1, slowly open low valve. The relief valve must drip when the differential gauge reading is 2 psid or above. And lastly, restore the system. Step number 1, close all test cocks. Step number 2, remove hoses. Step number 3, open all valves on test kit to drain the water. And step number 4, restore the number 2 shutoff valve to pre-test state.